guess it's common knowledge at this point that the 1930s are my favorite decade for horror, in film anyway, and I wanted to take today to show you my 1930s horror film collection. Now, before some purists get upset at me, I am fully aware that some of these films are available in better form than I own them. Truth is, I'm not looking to upgrade everything to the highest possible standard unless it's something that I really love. So if it's a film that I like owning and I think represents the period well, I probably have it on DVD and I probably won't ever update it to anything more. But the films from the 1930s are important to own for me because I think they're the most vulnerable as we walk towards the extinction of physical media. Reason being, I just don't see any real commercially viable streaming service for this material. It's a very niche thing, and while maybe niche streaming services will be part of the future, I can see them coming and going, right? I don't see them really being able to thrive year after year. But for now, I'm very proud to own a pretty extensive library of the 1930s horror films. Alright, so unlike everyone else who's a little bit more sane than I am, I actually do not keep my films in alphabetical order. Instead, I run them by decade. You're looking left to right at the 1930s. Now, I don't keep them chronologically in order for every decade. And you'll see that we end right there with White Zombie at the end. So going through the Frederick March, Jekyll and Hyde, it's obviously an essential view. This is The Phantom from 1931. This is a really interesting public domain film at this point. That's why this is a really cheesy looking box. It's really more of a mystery with just a lot of spooky overtones to it and a lot of melodrama and overacting, but it's hard not to love it. Here's the original version of La Llorona, the classic Mexican myth that has made its way into film many times, but only once recently. Tales of the Uncanny, the great German expressionist film that people should be talking about as often as they talk about, Nosferatu or The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Night of Terror. Okay, so if you want to know where the slasher film begins, this is it. This is a straight-up slasher film. Scenes from this have been virtually remade in everything from Maniac to Night of the Creeps. This is it's a Lugosi vehicle in name only, really. He's a fairly minor character in the film, though he cuts a wide swath across the screen. So the Universal stuff I don't probably have to say much about, right? We all kind of know those films. Okay, I have a combination of some of the Blu-ray sets of the Essentials and some of the regular DVDs, and again, that's fine. The Karloff collection. This is actually really cool. You'll see Night Key, Tower of London, Climax, Strange Door, and Black Castle. A lot of these got re-released on those Universal Classics on Blu-ray, but I can't give up this set because not everything got ported over. This, of course, should be in everyone's collections. The Classic Monsters Blu-ray set. It is amazing. All right. Oh, Maniac. Probably one of the worst films ever made, but it's pre-code in every way. This film has topless women. It has a guy who raises cats as a food source. It has murder. It is a messed up, wild film that basically takes psychiatry as the new evil. Son of Kong. And you'll see what I paid for it up here. Look at that. I love Son of Kong. I think it's a really underrated sequel. I like it actually more than Mighty Joe Young, and I know I'm in the minority there. The Inner Sanctum Mysteries. I don't see how you can go wrong with those, even though I'm not the biggest Chaney Jr. fan. This was a Universal Horror Archive collection. Now again, all these titles made it out on those Universal Classic collections from Scream Factory. But I just can't tear myself away from this collection. I think it's a beautiful package. It looks better than what came later. The Fox Horror Classics, Chandu the Magician, and Dr. Renaud's Secret. Dragonwyck in the center doesn't really belong on this set. I would make that argument all day long, but I don't mind owning the movie. It just really isn't a horror movie. Island of the Lost... A Little Bit of Dust and Island of Lost Souls. I love this movie. I consider this to be probably Lugosi's best performance. Speaking of Lugosi, the Kino edition of White Zombie. In obscurity, Murder by the Clock. It is really a mystery with gothic overtones. Nothing more needs to be said about Freaks. I love The Old Dark House. If you haven't seen it, it is absolutely classic. The Most Dangerous Game. This is if you're a big Fay Wray fan, it's hard to go wrong with that film, but the film is just great all around. Congo. Now, Congo couldn't be made today. This film is, it definitely is a very, very racist film. It's also a really intense and mean-spirited film. I love Congo. Murder in the Rue Morgue. Murders in the Rue Morgue. Christian, Hannah Horror, and I did a commentary on this recently for the Region Free Patreon. I love the film. It's great. I think it was really innovative at the time, and I love them cutting between a chimpanzee's face and a full-size orangutan. Oh, Legends of Horror Collection. This is a great collection if you're missing any of these titles. Devil Doll is on here, Mad Love is on here, Mask of Fu Manchu, which again, I just did a commentary with... not with a cat. Okay, Devil's Daughter and Chloe, Your Love is Calling. Now, this is from Alpha Video, and unfortunately this is the only way you're going to find Chloe. Devil's Daughter you can find on a couple different collections out there, but Chloe, well, Chloe's the most racist film maybe ever made in the horror genre. It is completely an inappropriate film. It should not exist. I'm very pleased to own it, though, because I believe we have to embrace this history. Mystery of the Wax Museum. Oh, man. Again, Fay Wray, unbelievable film. And this archive collection edition from Warner Brothers is amazing. The Universal collections I'm not going to pull out because you've seen those. This is the Criterion of Vampire. So this is a disc called Johnny Legend Presents Halloween in Hell. And the reason I have it is because as a bonus feature, it features Todd Slaughter's The Face at the Window and Murder in the Red Barn, which in England, Todd Slaughter was kind of the Bela Lugosi of that country. Mystery of the Wax Museum, you already saw back there. This was an earlier release of it, and it was for a long time the only way you could get it. For pure cheese, I'm not sure you can go wrong with Revolt of the Zombies. House of Mystery, which is one of many of the ape-bound terror films from the 1930s. It's pretty great. Kong on Blu-ray. All right. Here's one that everyone probably should check out. The Monster Walks. Now, The Monster Walks is a phenomenal film. And the film detectives really restored this properly. I don't want to give it away, but when you see this film, you're going to find it hard to believe they had the technology to make this movie in the 1930s. This is a set that I bought off of eBay. And it has Torture Ship on it and The Sphinx, which are two really obscure films. And they're horrible transfers, but I have not found another way to find those films. Supernatural. I love this film. This Carol Lombard performance is amazing. This transfer is unbelievable. Kino did an amazing job. Another Karloff collection here, 11 films. There's only a few things on here that I absolutely needed. The Fatal Hour was one of them. That's actually from 1940, but it was released in 1939 in limited release. Condemned to Live. Again, another gothic melodrama. Golem, Legend of Prague. This is not the first telling of the Golem myth, but this is the one I like the most. Another Karloff collection, and this one for The Boogeyman Will Get You. Oh, Vampire Bat. This is... So, Lionel Atwill, Fay Wray, Melvin Douglas. Amazing. The Gorilla, this is actually more of a horror comedy than anything else, but it does have a real important place in horror history, simply because if you watch the film, you'll see that so many films after it just borrowed wholesale from it in the kind of guerrilla horror thing. You got to remember that Darwinism was really scary for this whole period for a lot of people. Drums of Jeopardy. Not much to be said here. It's very much kind of like, in a vaguest sense, kind of like the Inner Sanctum mystery type of film. Victor Halpin's Buried Alive. Barrymore's Svengali, which is a great film. This is a Karloff film called The Man Who Changed His Mind. Very big in Britain, didn't do very well here. The Testament of Dr. Mabuse. Yeah, so hard to underestimate. You'll notice that I had to go outside the country to find a decent print. Song at Midnight. This is a Chinese horror film. It's the first horror film from China by most estimations. It's kind of a mixture of Phantom of the Opera and Dracula, with a lot of Chinese history in it. Okay, Red Monks. Really obscure Spanish title. Pretty great. This includes also Phantom of the Convent, which is equally rare. Again, obviously not a major release from any manufacturer. This is The Sea God. This is not a horror film, but it is very important to the horror tradition. First of all, we have a very young Fay Wray, but it is really kind of the jungle adventure film from the halfway point after we get through the boat race. And all of those cliches from later about, the savages in the jungle that want to kill everyone. That all came from here. So Cannibal Holocaust started here. Black Moon, one of my favorite films of this period. Absolutely, again, the great Fay Wray. Jack Holt. This is amazing. This is a film this is a jungle adventure as well, but it's more about voodoo. And the villagers are not portrayed as savages as much as just a different culture. 13 Women, which I consider one of the great early dark comedies. And here's another copy of The Phantom of the Convent. I've been searching for a great transfer of this film for so long, and I think I'm still not quite there. And, of course, we end with the remastered release of White Zombie. So that's my 1930s horror collection. Hope you enjoyed taking a look, and I hope maybe you'll check out some of these titles.